Welcome back to the Top 6 show. I'm sorry it's 24 hours late. I was busy filming yesterday and things went on a lot longer. Majority of that was down to Henry. It took him over 25 minutes to say one line just to introduce part of the show. He couldn't get it right. So we did. We just sent him for the tea. We just sent him to go make cups of tea for us because that was the most useful he was all day. It really, really was. And he makes a good cup of tea. So if anybody's employing, if anybody wants to give out a job and you need someone to make tea, Henry makes a good cup of tea. So welcome, everybody. We've got a brilliant panel for you today. Double A is in the house. Double H is in the house. We've got Man Like Will with a double L. We've got Henry, who's talking double bullshit, and we've got Kate, who is double lovely. Welcome, one and all. Loads of topics today with the Champions League coming tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Arsenal, PGMOL. The Gooners have just won their battle against them. Some big transfer stories to jump into as well. Plus, crisis at Chelsea and a relegation fight for the Tottenham. But first of all, panel, how are you? Are you all good and well? Healthy?
Yep, all good.
Yeah,
man,
can't complain.
All good,
man. All good.
Yeah, pretty good. Late night,
All
but
good.
apart from that, all good.
Yeah, I heard you had a good time last night after filming.
Yeah.
Making cups of tea, Terry. Making cups of tea.
Yeah, just decided to go out on the town and experience the Nottingham culture. Lost at darts. And yeah, it was good.
I'm not surprised. He lost to everything yesterday. We can't say what happens. You'll all see it Friday. But Henry is just, honestly, Joey Essex looks intelligent next to him.
Henry, did you fight any chairs or anything? Kick the shit out of any chairs?
Have to wait and see.
He did. He certainly did. So, yeah, loads to talk about today. The first thing I wanted to start with, actually, is the news has just come out that Arsenal have won their appeal. Martin Lewis Skelly will no longer face a free-game ban. The panel have overturned it. Does everybody on the panel agree? Maybe one of the most ridiculous red cards in the history of Premier League football?
Yeah, I mean, it was stupid. Like, even like when I saw it, I was like, the guy is in his own half. It is not that much of a dangerous tackle, and to give a straight red is insane. Because like basically, I'm not one of those guys that okay, there's a conspiracy theory, but maybe we have to look into this conspiracy theory of these referees who have it in for these teams, because again, like watching it literally makes no sense. And which is why I think there needs to be a new rule. These referees need to come out and give post-match press conferences. So after the game, there needs to be asked, okay, so why did you make that stupid, boneheaded, brick-like decision? And they have to come and explain, because Michael Oliver, no, explain, why did you give that decision? If you were paid, say you were paid. How much were you paid? Was that in cash? Was that in a brown envelope? At least say that I got paid, so I was trying to do it for us. But say something, because the decision is insane. That's insane.
Yeah, I think it was a bad red card. I don't think there's a conspiracy. I just think it's just poor refereeing, to be honest. And I kind of do think, though, that along the lines of a conspiracy thing, I think referees, like, they obviously do have teams that they don't like. Like, they're humans, they're football fans, they grew up supporting certain clubs, so they already have a biasness towards teams. But I think you got to hope that as a referee, you're able to, maintain your composure or your hate for a team and call things fairly. But yeah, I feel like that red card was weird. It should have been a yellow. It definitely was a foul. Just a straight red is a bit ridiculous. So it does make sense for it to get like overturned. But yeah, just like what like HH said, I think there needs to be like more transparency. Like in American sports, our referees are mic'd up, so we can hear like what they're saying. Like they can get that audio if need be. And I think maybe having refs do like post-match interviews and things like that for controversial calls, that would eliminate this stuff, because I doubt that they'd want to have to answer for anything that's questionable. So yeah, I definitely do agree there. It should be some new changes, but the rules of the law in terms of what's a red card or like what's a pen and what, I feel like it always changes. So I don't even know if that should have been a straight red based on whatever the new rules might be, because it's always adopting. So
Yeah,
But
I was streaming with LB in that earlier, and me and LB were having a bit of a disagreement about subjectivity and objectivity. And he's got a fair claim that, well, it's subjective. It isn't like tennis and Hawkeye and stuff within cricket and tennis, because they're just, is it in or is it out? And there's some truth to that. But I look at it like rugby. Rugby, there's still subjectivity to it, but the consistency around their decisions is much closer. And I've used Lisandro Martinez as an example. I think what Lisandro Martinez does should be a red card. I don't want him sent off, but it's a red card offense. Stamp him with 2 feet. However, the PGMOL and the VAR have set a precedent that is not a red card challenge. Therefore, now you can be nearer to objective about that type of tackle than subjective, because they've set a precedent. And I think I don't know about you, Double A, but this decision to overturn it, how stupid now do the PGMOL, VAR, and Oliver look for coming out and doubling and tripling down on it being the absolute correct decision by the letter of the law, just for the panel to very quickly, they only submitted the appeal today, to very quickly overturn it and reverse the decision.
I mean, no more stupider than they normally look, mate, to be honest with you. I think we know the incompetence of the referees in this country. We see it every Monday on Sky, the backing of the referees, no matter what the decision is. So I'm not surprised that they do what they do and back each other and want to keep each other safe. And like you say, for it to be so quickly overturned just shows what a bad decision it was. It's a professional yellow. We see it all the time in the game. There's a breakaway and he stopped the man from getting up the pitch. It's no more than a yellow card. And I'm no Arsenal fan by a long shot, but thankfully the right decision was made. I agree with Will what he's saying about, and I believe they're going to trial it in the Bundesliga about referees. They're going to start, explaining the decisions. As good as that could be, we still have idiots in charge of the game, still making terrible decisions. So it doesn't matter if they tell us what they've done or not. It's still invariably always a crap decision with these referees. It's so deep rooted, the problem with referees in this country now. Like, Ian Wright after the red card come out on Instagram and was, rightfully fighting the corner of not only Arsenal because he's obviously an ex-Arsenal player, but for the players, because it's happening far too many times now that we're seeing these horrendous decisions. And it's not just for Arsenal. And I know the jokes fly around that it's Arsenal, it's always Arsenal, and the fans are a bit sensitive about it. But it's every single team. We've suffered. Tottenham have suffered more. They suffer all the time, Tottenham, but especially they suffer with refs as well. But I mean, we just want a fair and equal game. That might not always be the case. Human error may always come in there, but it's just, as much as VAR, I think in the right hands is very important for the game now. It is ruining the game with the people that are at the wheel, and that needs to change drastically and as quick as possible.
I don't understand how VAR didn't say to him, go and look at the monitor, because surely they know the rules. I mean, I'm not, as everyone knows, I'm not Arsenal's biggest fan, but I actually do believe there are refs with agendas against football clubs. We saw Mike Dean was called out once for being a Tottenham sympathiser, and from that moment on, he was ruthless to us. He never gave us anything. He was savage. And if you look at Michael Oliver's record against referee in Arsenal, it is a little bit dubious. So luckily for Arsenal and for the game in general, it didn't cost them the 3 points, which would have been a travesty from a neutral perspective. But I don't know how they solve it, because how do you sort of check whether a referee's got an alliance with the team? You can't do it. But you
do it by having checks and balances, Kate. You do it by checks and balances and by reviewing things. So, for instance, you may not be able to prove, and this is the problem. It's not a court of law. So it's like any type of employment. You don't have to prove. Say you think a member of staff has stolen something. You don't have to prove it beyond reasonable doubt, like you're in a court of law, to dismiss them. You can do it based on probability. If, for instance, Lisandro Martinez keeps doing that 2-footed stomp, and there's 2 different referees and 2 different VRs, never ever send him off, but then those same guys, whenever a Tottenham player does it, they send them off. You should be investigating the differences and scrutinizing. And you may interview them, and they show and they may not show you any categoric evidence they've got an agenda, but they may not be able to explain their reasoning very well. And you can look at it as a sensible, educated person. And when people say this is impossible, it tells me they've never had a real job, because you can sit there as an educated person and say, I have no clear evidence you did this, but your reasoning for going into the safe where the money was kept makes no sense. There's no reason. Then also, your handbag was strangely found in the car park, thrown out the staff room window. So yes, I didn't see you actually steal the money, but I'm going to take a risk with HR and fire you. You can sue us if you want, because people have got brains. And if you interview a referee and you go, how these two very similar tackles treated so different, there, and that's why I think they should be interviewed. I think they'll stop being as biased and stop allowing their agendas to shine through. Because I agree, no one club has a conspiracy against them. I think they hold grudges. Why do I think that? Because ex-referees have admitted they had grudges. So therefore, if they have to explain their decision, they are less likely to. They're kind of conscious. Oh, I've got to explain this, and then I'm going to be questioned why it's different to these, and I don't want to be put on the spot. I'll make a better decision. And what I don't understand is why suddenly football fans act like there's nothing that can be done to resolve it. There's loads of things. Whether they'll do these things or not is another conversation. But the way we act as though this is how it is, it's never going to change, and there's nothing we can do about it, I think it's nonsense. When you look at so many other sports that are so much better with their consistency around subjective decisions compared to football, it's crazy to me.
I don't see the sort of, this was a perfect opportunity to VAR to do its job properly, and it failed again. And I think the whole purpose of this VAR has got to change. It's like, I don't want to bring Spurs into this story, but it's like the other day when the opposition were awarded a corner and they scored from it, and it clearly wasn't a corner, and everyone said about it, but VAR can't get involved. I don't understand the point of having a system that questions incorrect decisions if they can't question certain decisions. It's bonkers. For me, they've got all this technology and they're not using it properly. And
they're a real quick one. It takes how many times do you see corners given or not, or vice versa, and they show us a replay a minute later and we go, oh, it was a corner. It would take VAR 10 seconds. I tweeted the other day saying they should check corners. Oh, another delay. It takes 10 seconds. It takes a minute for Arsenal to take a corner. So the idea that there's a longer delay because you check a 10-second clip is ridiculous. There are certain things we don't do with it that we should.
Yeah.
And then not in reverse, if that makes sense. Like, there's certain things that it should just be used for, like corners as an example, that they don't do. Yeah, they're very, very weird with it. They're very, very weird indeed. This super chat here says, make VAR teams separate from the regular referees. Currently, it's like one friend checking another friend's homework. It's a great point. It's a great point. Michael Oliver has given more red cards and yellow cards and pens against Arsenal than any other team in his career. Also given Arsenal the least penalties. I mean, I've seen the stats. Do any of you think there's something, and none of you are gooners, but do any of you think there's something in that? For instance, he's refereed the same amount of games against City as he has with City as he has with Arsenal, but 8 red cards to 1, 0 to Man City. A lot of City fans have called it out and said, well, stop giving away. And look, some of those red cards will be justified. Do you guys think there's something in that? Should it be looked at and scrutinized, or is it just a bit of pot luck here?
No, I think, look, I think someone even mentioned it on the panel. We're dealing with human beings. Look, people will disagree with me, but I believe that once aliens or robots take over, robots should be referees at the end of the day, because at least you can trust a robot for 90 minutes. Because, like, the thing is that a human being, as human beings, our bias is what is natural to us. Also being hypocrites is what's natural to us. So you cannot expect a human being to be 100% fully impartial in any given situation. I'm sure that if you look into Michael Oliver, he may have a slight bias against Arsenal because he's human. Now, referees try to be impartial. They try to be objective to a certain point, but there is no human being on this planet that is fully 100% impartial and objective. And that's just the reality. So, you know.
And that's where VAR should come in to an extent. Sorry, Henry, go on.
I was just going to say, wasn't he the referee when McAllister got kicked in the chest by Dorgu? And wasn't he also the referee when, in the FA Cup final, when Grealish handballed it and it wasn't given as a penalty to Chelsea? So when you look at it, when you look at the context of it, some of those red cards, like the Saliba one, against Bournemouth is a red card. But the Trossard one, in the same game or the same very weekend where there was 3 instances of a player kicking the ball away and it's not red carded. Van der Ven against Crystal Palace, last man, brings someone down. But in the same weekend, you have the Saliba instance, and in the same weekend, you have the Tosin Adebayo instance against Liverpool. If one's a red card, then they're all red cards. Otherwise, none of them are red cards. And we're sitting here right now with the best league in the world, but the worst officiating. Like in La Liga, I think there's been 4 times in the last year where Premier League referees have come out at half time and said why they made that decision. Why don't we get that in the Premier League? If there's a massive red card decision at the end of the first half, just bring them out half time. You don't need to go and sit and do a team talk, do you? Justify why that was a red card.
But I think, Henry, to your point is that we're living in because you said the Premier League is the best league in the world. So the best league in the world, as you said, one of the worst officiating. How's it we're in the year of our Lord 2025 and there still isn't semi-automated offside? Where it's as if I'm sitting down in kindergarten class and I'm seeing these clowns draw all these lines, trying to figure out if it's offside. You see, a refereeing decision, okay, you now have to bring a bit of human subjectivity. Offside is either offside or not offside. You can't try to interpret offside. That is fully objective. So get something that is semi-automated that can tell you exactly, computerized wise, if it's offside or onside.
Well, it already exists as well, and the Champions League, no one, and this is what's crazy. I always said when it comes to those lines, well, not always, after a little while of it being out, if we made it digital so it turns into like a cartoon, no one challenges it. No one challenges Hawkeye in tennis when it goes from the ball looking like the real ball to a cartoon ball. Everyone just goes, well, it must be right. Okay, there's integrity there. If they made it, like you've got Ahmad's at the weekend. I still can't see where they drew Ahmad's line. There was also about a few inches of the bottom of the shirt of the Fulham player that was on they hadn't drawn the line on, but yet we've been told that the bottom of the shirt sleeve is where offside stops. But why are they drawing the line from the top of the man's shoulder? And it's because you are right. There's human application to this, and the technology exists to remove as much human error as possible, and they haven't done it. But this is where I think it becomes problematic. To your point, Henry, about Michael Oliver did referee the game with Dorgu, and they said no to the foul. They said both players put their feet up higher and he slightly touches the ball first. They didn't care about the follow through onto his chest. We've seen 100 other decisions where players win balls, they follow through onto the leg and they get sent off, right? The problem you have is everything becomes tribalistic. And even Arsenal that feel on the wrong end of these decisions, I've said it for years, stop making it specifically about your club and that other clubs have cheated. Make it about the referees, the PGMOL, and be consistent when you benefit from them. Because we're so tribalistic as football fans, we need to come together. But if your reaction is, if you're a Liverpool fan with that Dorgu incident, City cheated today. City fans ain't going to back you because you're saying they've cheated to win that game and go on and win the league. What you need to do is call it out, and then to have credibility, when you benefit from one, you have to have the same energy. Football fans, and I'm going to sound really horrible when I say this because I don't know how to say it nicely. I get that when you're 10, 12, 14, maybe even 16 when you're a child. When you're an adult, okay, admitting we got away with a bad decision today, it went in our favor, you are not discrediting your team or being a bad fan. That is the thought process of an elementary school child. That is not how adults should think. So I do think we as fans we are a part of the problem in this, that we cannot drop our tribalism for 5 minutes and have a sensible, balanced, articulate conversation about this, typically without it becoming, people still do it about Man United. Fergie paid the refs. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up, you morons. Let's have an actual conversation to try and fix a problem or make it better, rather than making it about pointing fingers, because no one's club is paying referees. I don't believe that level of corruption is going on here. This is just an incompetence boys club that are not held to account, that are making bad decisions. That is what we should focus on, not your club plays refs, your club did that, your player did this, you guys cheated. It takes away from the actual attention of the real root cause problem. And that's probably more my issue now, even more than the media. It's fans are going about it the wrong way time and time again.
Oh, no, but sorry, you're asking for too much. And I think that's the issue.
I'm asking people to be intelligent for a moment.
No. But no. You are right. But the sad reality, and this is what I've been saying this for such a long time. Football fans, they need to be tribal, and there's a need to be tribal, and it's almost as if you are objective and you say we got away with it, you have somehow betrayed the unwritten code of being a fan, and that's just the sad reality. That to be a quote unquote real fan, you have to be hop and step with your club all the way through and be fully tribal, and it's like this echo chamber, and it's often this cult that you have to be a part of. So what you're asking for most of the tribal fans, not the intelligent fans, but most of the tribal fans, are never going to happen, because you're like, no, if it's against us, yeah, it's against us. If it's not against us, don't mention it, because we all have to do that stuff. So that's facts.
I don't think you need to be tribal for everything. I think in elements when what Terry's talking about, you can differentiate. You can differentiate, and I think fans need to do that. As like,
no, they have to. Yeah, they should,
because we all suffer from it. And like you said, like these elements to stop it is the technology and the referee to stop these issues before you start to blame City United for cheating. Do you know what I mean? And the only thing for me VAR has really ever highlighted is just how bad these referees are. We knew they were bad anyway. If you go Michael Oliver's been terrible for years. You look at, I can go back to Di Maria in 2014-15 when he got sent off against Arsenal in the FA Cup just for touching him. But yet previously he'd let Joe Hart scream in his face and did nothing about it. So he's been a terrible referee for a very long time. So anything I see of him, I'm not surprised, because whenever I see that he's refereeing a United game, I already feel like I'm on the back foot and we're fighting in anyway, because he clearly has something against Manchester United. And then, you've seen this week all the TikToks or Reels, whatever, and it goes back to him taking 20 grand off City for that game that he reffed. So listen, these stories behind stories, and everything will eventually probably come out. But the long and short of it is, as we all agree and we all see every single week, for the best league in the world, TM, we have the worst referees in the world, and until that is sorted out, we'll forever be sitting on a panel like this discussing absolute travesties that our clubs are facing.
I agree. How can technology ignore arms and hands from offside? Do you want to know? I don't know exactly how to word this, but I'm not a technical expert. But I watch this. I like these videos on TikTok and stuff. And it's this machine that scans millions of tomatoes going along conveyor belts. And it knows, because it's programmed to with its cameras, which ones to flick off that are no good based on size and coloring. So if you can have a machine in a factory that can scan thousands of tomatoes each minute, and then it has these little things that come out and shoots off, and it misses all the good ones and it only hits the bad ones. If that exists within a factory, I'm pretty sure technology exists to scan the offside line and ignore hands and arms. Like, it must be possible.
The tech exists. It exists.
If the tomato machine exists. So for me, I'm not worried about that. It will be out. And if it isn't out there, right? If it isn't, then what you do is you go to a tech firm full of loads of educated people and say, this is what we want the technology to do, and they can build it and test it. And it's doable. It isn't I don't think it'll be overly groundbreaking personally, if I'm being honest with you. So yeah,
aren't we the only top 5 league without the automated offside technology now? I'm pretty sure we are the only one. I mean,
I don't agree. Most of the tomatoes play for Spurs when they're not injured.
Well, they did. They're all injured now.
And by the way, big up to Footy Judge Mo's crew that have just come across with a what's the word? A redirect. I want to thank everyone who's tuning in, by the way, and smash the like button for us. Make sure you are all subscribing as well. Got a few super chats before we go on to talk about Chelsea and Spurs. This here says, Oliver can make mistakes as a human. Where it gets fishy is when those mistakes affect particular clubs more and benefit other clubs more. If those affected, all clubs can write it off as human error. Listen, I hear that. If politicians swear oaths can become corrupt and biased, why can't referees? Which is why they need investigating and interviewing and being spoken to. And again, I did a comment once in like what they call special investigations when I worked at Barclays. And I just wanted to do it to see what it was like and what they got to go and invest. And when you see people being interviewed that ended up being guilty, the way they responded compared to innocent people, every now and then you had a brilliant liar. But generally, when people get caught, there's a way they respond. I was only there a few months, and you learn like, wow, you can smell one a mile away. So you start interviewing the refs, scrutinizing their decisions in a fair way. If and when they're doing things on purpose to hurt teams, it will stand out like a sore thumb.
Terry, can I just quickly
yeah.
say something? Obviously,
Yeah.
refs get paid quite a lot of money. Is there not an argument that they should be put on some sort of performance-related pay? So if they make a terrible decision, they don't get paid their full wage.
That's a good idea. Or they have to stand in front of the team they messed up and their balls pelted at them or something. Like something really gladiatorial and fun. Tomatoes, yeah. The machine flicks the bad tomatoes at them, the rotten tomatoes, which will work well. I want to talk about Chelsea, and I'm going to go to Will first on this because Will, I know he supports Madrid, but he is an honorary Chelsea fan. Right. 1 win in their last 7 league games. The fans, let's be blunt, and I know you're a Chelsea fan, Hafo, but I need to go to Will first on this. Their fans are quickly turning on Clear Lake again, turning on the sporting directors, slagging the quality of their squad off, slamming the manager. It feels like real chaos and a crisis at the moment at Chelsea, especially with that poor performance against a weakened City side. What's going wrong, in your opinion, at Chelsea, and how do they fix it, Will?
Yeah, so as an investor in Chelsea stock, it's not looking good right now. You know, once I saw the links to Garnacho the other week, I almost cashed in. But I'm gonna still look at their project and not be too hasty with my decisions. But no, I mean, like, all jokes aside, though, I think that the problems that Chelsea are having is, one, I think that their squad's inexperienced, and two, I know that everybody likes to get on Nicholas Jackson nowadays, but I feel like their defense, more so the center backs and the goalkeeper, is the bigger problem. I know that, like, Jackson, again, like, he's not the ideal 9 that you want because he's not as consistent in front of goal. But I still believe that Chelsea's attack is good enough to get them over the line, whereas I don't believe that your center backs and that goalkeeper are good enough to help you get over the line. So, in my opinion, I think what Chelsea need, and you're not going to get that in this January window, but definitely in the summer, I think that you need a new goalkeeper. And I think that you need a top defender because Levi Colwill is not good enough. Trevor Chalobah, the guy that was on loan at Crystal Palace, is your best center back. Fofana's never fit. Disasi's about to go to Aston Villa. I don't know where Badia Shield is either. So it's just not good defensively, in my opinion. But I feel like that's the root of Chelsea's like issues. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Basically, I think so. You said that you're a Madrid fan, but you have stocks in Chelsea.
Yeah, I just rate like some of the players that you guys have.
So basically, this all started when you ruined Eden Hazard, Real Madrid. That's where everything started.
We ruined him.
Yeah, that's where it all started.
The guy that was eating burgers every day. Ruined him.
It's all started when you ruined the most talented player to play in the Premier League. So that's where basically Real Madrid have to now take responsibility for taking Chelsea's greatest son.
Premier League.
Yeah. So
you're welcome for
Is he the most talented Chelsea player or most talented player?
One of the most uniquely talented players in the Premier League history.
One of.
The most uniquely. So
one of, not the
most uniquely. So basically, you ruined him, and that's where it all started. The whole thing with Chelsea is this. I don't want to get too political here because obviously, I know that Terry, this is Football Terrace and you have a lot of stocks. So I'm not going to get too in trouble. So I'm going to speak in code here. The club was taken from us by King Charles. That's all I'll say. King Charles is responsible for the downfall of Chelsea. And that's what I'll say. Shout out to you, Ukraine. I'll say no more.
King Charles has no power in this country.
Terry, I know things that I can't reveal here. Again, I respect the terrace, so I'm not going to say things. All I'm saying, though, is shout out to Charlie Boy. Now, the issue here is this. Terry, I find it offensive seeing that moron on the right side of the screen with that jersey. Because I find that.
I thought you were talking about me then for a second.
No. The clown with Edward Scissorhands as teeth wearing that blue jersey under the coat there. Because everyone likes nachos. Nachos are a really nice meal. I don't want a nachos at my club. I don't want a nachos playing football at my club with that famous jersey. So you made a very good point there, Football Carnage. Brilliant points. What do Chelsea need? Not what the Chelsea wants. You see, I need food. I need to pay my bills. I would like a spaceship. I would like to rule the world. So there are things you need and things that you would like. We need a goalkeeper because we have a guy who is the Spanish Grover in goal. So we need a natural goalkeeper. We need a central defender, a guy who leads the defense because our defenders are clowns. So why the hell is this club paying 60 million towards a guy called Alejandro Garnacho? It's madness. And everything stems from the great Abramovich. His club been stolen from him. It's been given to these clowns, Claire Ocean or whatever the heck they are called. And the very fiber of Chelsea just being ruined. Because when you look at the way the team has been constructed, how do you spend 2 billion and we don't have a striker? How do you spend 2 billion and we have literally the worst goalkeeper in the league? It's madness. And then you have that bald-headed mascara who decides that, oh, let's play a high line against Man City. That would be brilliant. So look, it's a mess. It's a mess, you know. And people will say that I'm harsh for saying this. If that bald-headed buffoon known as Mascara continues to defend Robert Sanchez, he should be sacked. He should be sacked.
I have to say, hey, H, I think some Chelsea fans should be, you know, they're looking down on a gift, you know, a great gift for Manchester United. I mean, to get Garnacho would be a gift for Chelsea because we've seen over the last 2 seasons, he is the most gifted, naturally gifted player in the Premier League. Like, I mean, he 100%, 100%. Listen, I agree. He frustrates the life out of me, Garnacho, and I don't understand why you'd be even looking in his direction. He's not a player that you need. Like Will said, your forward line doesn't see. You do need that absolute killer up front, over another option than Jackson. And I do like Jackson, but I just think yes, goalkeeper. Like again, another absolute howler. And this is coming from a United fan who's having to watch Onana every week. And then when the replacement goalkeeper comes in, it's Bayern who's not.
No, I'll be real with you. They're both bad. If you pointed a nuke to my head, I'm taking Rihanna over Robert Sanchez. I'm taking Rihanna over Robert Sanchez 100%. And they're both bad. But we uniquely have a horrendous keeper. Because what that guy did for the Haaland goal, I've never seen a keeper do. I've never seen a keeper do that in my life.
Terrible. But I think you can't build anything from the back when you've got a keeper who's such a massive liability. And to go further, and again, to jump on to Will's point, your centre-backs are terrible as well. And, you know, for a club that's gone and spent the ridiculous amounts of money that you have done, to not have what you class as top-level centre-backs is a massive crime. Not a shame. I'm going to say a shame because I don't care because it's Chelsea, but it's a massive shame or crime for yous not to have them. So, I mean, I think Meresca's doing a good job. And I think if he's backed with proper centre-back signings and a proper goalkeeper, and I mean, like, a top level.
So you say Meresca is doing a good job. How's he doing a good job? How is he doing a good job?
I mean, from the Chelsea fans I know and spoke to, you're a lot higher up the league than any of you.
Which Chelsea fans did he speak to? Were they under the influence when you spoke to those guys? Were those guys under the influence when you spoke to them? Because I don't know who those. I don't watch those guys.
I don't really pry into the private lives, to be honest, mate.
Okay.
I just have conversations with fans.
But I think you should.
But I think, I mean, did you expect to be? You're not in a title race now, but did you expect to be contenders for a title race at the season? No, you didn't. Don't lie.
This is where it all becomes cap, though, right? Towards you have hope and certain Chelsea fans, right? And what I mean by in terms of calling out Meresca, you sit there and talk about you got no gunman up front, no finisher, and the worst goalkeeper in the league who keeps costing you points. Barring the City game of those 7 league games with 1 win, barring the City game where I did think your manager got it wrong and the intensity was wrong. He's made mistakes, of course, could have made earlier subs, but the volume of chances that Jackson missed to kill those games off and the volume of mistakes made by Sanchez that led to you leaking goals, if you had that top-class goalie and that top-class bagsman, you're probably in those last 7 games are walking away with 4 wins, maybe a draw and 1 defeat, and you're in that title race, and none of you are saying Enzo Maresca's doing a bad job. It isn't to say he's free of criticism, but how can you expect to be in a title race when you've said you don't have a top-class striker and you don't have a world-class goalkeeper? Those, in terms of a top-class goal scorer and a top-class keeper, are pretty much fundamental ingredients that every league title and league challenging team has ever had. So it doesn't compute to just, I get criticizing the manager, but it feels a little bit hypocritical to say the squad after 2 billion is spent, your words, is incomplete, but yet I'm going to judge my manager based on Chelsea standards as if we had a complete squad. Those two things have got to have some balance to them, surely.
But see, my issue is, if the manager made it clear that we are in need of a striker, we are in need of a keeper, then I'd empathize with him. The reason why I fail to empathize with him is he sees no issue with Robert Sanchez. So therefore, it's almost as if it's like, oh, no, he's fine. So the fact that you don't see that Robert Sanchez is an issue, the fact that you don't see that not having a striker is an issue, I fail to empathize when Nico Jackson misses those chances. I fail to empathize with you when Robert Sanchez makes those mistakes because you don't see them as issues. Because again, Robert Sanchez has made a mistake, and this guy said in the press conference, "Oh, others have made a mistake." No, Meresca. This guy made a horrible howler. Own it, accept it, rather than now put the blame on other players as well. So that is what is worrying me. Why I say, okay, yes, you've done a good job, but there's an asterisk because we have bozos in this team, and you're not calling out the bozos in this team. Because you have to go to your scouts or sports director and say, look, we need a keeper. Look, it's January 28th, and and I'm not heard of a keeper or a defender coming through the door. And I'm like, you know that a defender and a keeper is needed. And I'm not seeing any movement. And the only movement I'm seeing is that bomb from Argentina, from United on the left wing, who we don't need. So it's like, what? Oh, man.
Yeah, like the Garnacho links are super weird, and like that's why I said earlier that I was questioning on whether I should be selling my Chelsea stocks.
Sell them.
Because I'm just not seeing the vision here. Like Garnacho isn't a player that starts for Chelsea, and we know that there's, again, like we said, holes in your team, right? Like 50 to 60 million could get you a top goalkeeper, right? Like you can go get a goalkeeper right now. Then if you have that much money to spend on this guy, right? You can go get like a Diogo Costa from like Porto, for example, like a top goalkeeper, or you can go get a very, very good center back, because even though, yes, like Nico Jackson's not putting away clear-cut chances, and yes, Robert Sanchez is a liability as well. I think, for example, like Levi Colwell, I think he's garbage. Like that guy gets away with murder every single week. And I don't know if it's because he's from your academy and he's English as well, so people, they don't really want to get onto him as much. But yeah, like they're just massive holes like in your team. And I don't really think that you could necessarily blame Meresca too much. Like the only thing that I could say that Meresca should be doing is maybe he could give the backup goalkeeper a chance, Jurgensen, in the league. I know that guy was only playing in the conference. But then, like, what else can he really change though aside from that?
But Will, again, let's take on that point. So you know that the defense is an issue. You're going to play Man City, and you know what is Man City's antithesis? Men behind the ball, they find out how to break it down. Men behind the ball counter them. So why are you then playing a high line, allowing the ball to go over the top when you know that you don't have the defenders and the keeper to properly play that high line? That's on Meresca. You know that you don't have the defenders or the keeper to play a high line, and City exposed that high line in the way that they scored. Like all the 3 goals that City scored was exposing the high line that Chelsea had. So again, that's just bad assessment of a manager, knowing that you don't have the tools to play this particular strategy, man. So, but look, who in their right mind within that Garnacho is? What is the logic in getting Garnacho? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense.
The one thing for me that stands out with this is that we've got a few Chelsea fans that come on the terrace, like Dom, but more so Ches. And I know there's thousands out there like them who have kind of backed, they've fully backed Clear Lake, fully backed Todd B the whole time, called out their mistakes, but backed the overarching process. And that's fine because, you know, I'm not condemning things I don't like that Ineos do, but I'm not kind of flip-flopping every week to great owners. Oh, now they're bad owners. Oh, we're getting a new stadium, great owners. The next week you hear, oh, why are we linked to a player I don't like? Bad owners. They kind of stayed the course of, I still think they'll get us there in the end. Where I think this becomes problematic is there's been a lot of, not excuses, because I think that's a disrespectful way to word it, but there's been a lot of justification of, no, we've been building this team, and yes, there's a wage cap, but as and when the time is right, we will buy that player who's on 200 grand a week. We'll promote that player onto that kind of money. When we're nearly there, we'll buy those stars, but we had to lower the wage bill, and we're sort of getting rid of all the dead wood, and we will go back to spending big at some point. That has been I'm paraphrasing, but the narrative. The problem is they're going to lose a lot of faith if you are on the edge of a title race. If you had a world-class goalkeeper in Osimhen, I still think you could be top of the league right now, genuinely, or at least only a few points off top. If the response to being that close to being in a title race is Garnacho on the left rather than a bagsman up front who's on 200 grand a week, as an example, I think young Delap looks like a good player. If you go and drop 70 million on Delap instead of going to buy an Osimhen or buying a Gyökeres who are more established, I think if he doesn't come in and score the goals you need, if you stick with Sanchez for another season, it sends a message to even those loyal fans that got behind you. Are you really trying to make us win the league? Because you're right on the edge. And I think in the early days of a kind of rebuild, you can understand it where you're like, you know, we're not going to today put someone on 300 grand a week because we're trying to get the squad better. We're trying to get out the sort of mercenaries. There's reasons for it. Man United are in that space. I don't necessarily want to go and buy someone on 500 grand a week right now. I think we need to settle the ship, get the style of play sorted. But at some point, you may have to make a signing like that. And I just think this can potentially, the window's not shut, send a really sour message to Chelsea fans that you're right on the edge of a title race and your answer's Garnacho. And I like Garnacho, but he's not what you need. He isn't what you need at all. You could argue, objectively speaking, that you've already got two left-sided attackers that are better than him.
And
they have Neto and Sancho.
Yeah, and they have Esteval that's coming in the summer as well, the winger. So I don't get it. It just comes across as if maybe Clear Lake don't necessarily care about building a contender, but more so just building up assets that they can flip for more money in the future. That's how it looks like to me. With the Garnacho,
it's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
Like they're just trying to be able to maybe sell some of their players.
Trav here says on the edge, and yes, I do mean on the edge because they've gotten themselves into the title race, and then the mistakes from the goalkeeper and the lack of conversion from Jackson has been the biggest component in the last 7 games of them falling away from it. So what you know is that this Chelsea team can win enough games to be in a title race. It just needs a better striker. It needs a better goalie. They need some centre backs as well. I'm not saying I haven't said they'd win the league, but they're right there. And the answer is 60 million on Garnacho. There's talk today you might go after Tell from Bayern Munich that's now decided to leave the club. And again, really talented player. But is that what Chelsea need for them? Is that what I don't think it is. He's a good player and I rate him, but is that what Chelsea need? What do you make of it as Spurs fans?
No, they need experience. I think I've said it every time I've come on here. I don't understand why they're going for youngsters all the time. They're in the process of getting a really good squad, and we've seen times this season they surprised everyone because they looked really impressive and looked like they were going to go for a title charge at one point. But I don't think you can put it all on Meresca. Surely you've got to blame the scouting and the recruitment rather than the manager because he can only work with what he's given at the end of the day. So I don't think it's all on Meresca.
Sorry to interject there with the breaking news, Kate. I will come back to you. It has just been announced in the last few moments that the Here We Go is here. Man United have agreed the deal to bring Patrick Dorgu to Manchester United from Serie A. It's for I'm not going to do what the mainstream media do. It is a £25 million deal, not a €37 million deal, because we deal it in pounds. So it's a £25 million deal for the young fullback. We'll come back to Chelsea in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. But Double A, are you happy with that deal?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be. I was a little bit skeptical about some of the prices that were being mentioned. You know, they wanted €40 million, and I think they managed to get that down. I think it's a good deal, 25 million. I know it's a little bit more than what the highest they've ever sold a player for, about 6 million more. But I mean, it's something we need massively. We can't rely on the two left-footed defenders we have at the moment, especially the more senior one. And I just think Malacia just doesn't look like the player he was coming back from the injury. So, a loan for him, it looks like that's the option now. So that'll be good for him. Maybe I think he's in the last 18 months of his contract as well. But I think we've struck a good deal. He's a very highly rated 20-year-old. Can only get better. Hopefully, he gets better at Man United. I know what the history, the records like of us buying players at the moment isn't too great, but hopefully he's one that can thrive under Amorim. He solves that left-handed problem. I think we're even keeping Amas now, but we're not even going to put Amas on loan. So does that mean we've got two left-footed defenders that can start playing some games for us? I'm excited to see him play for us. I just can't see Delo. I'm sick of seeing Delo on that left-hand side. So, I mean, anything to stop him playing there is a massive bonus. But the only thing I have is it's another young player coming in and he has to sort of hit the ground running immediately. And we've had too many young players not do that.
Can I ask you a question on that? Can I ask you a question on that? When you say he's got to hit that doesn't sound like you think that. But where do you think that's coming from?
I think just any player that comes to United, mate, at the moment, I think, and it's not a ridiculous fee. So I think if he comes for 40 million straight up, that's a big fee that he has to live up to. The 25 kind of gives him that wiggle room, I think, a little bit. But I think there's just everything. The pressure on United at the moment and Amorim. I think any player coming into United now, the way we're playing, how bad we are. I mean, off camera before you're laughing at Spurs, but their house is on fire, but our kitchen's got smoke coming out of it, mate. We're not far off. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
It's one of them, mate. So we need players to come in, and I think we actually need them to start performing straight away.
But is there pressure on him though, given the situation, the profile of the player? Because if, let's say, you bought a marquee signing, and he knows it's a marquee signing, then that's pressure. Most of these guys, unless you're really in the know, like, okay, unless you're like a Syria guy who watches Syria, then you may know who Dorgu is. So I don't think that there's any real pressure on him. Just general pressure of like, I want to impress, but I don't think there's a pressure of like, oh my gosh, you have to perform well, and if you don't perform well and everything, because I just don't think it's because he's not a marquee signing. Like the pressure goes for marquee signings.
Yeah. Certainly what a marquee signing though. He is. He's the first Amorim signing, so that brings its own pressure there because it's the first signing under this manager. So straight away, people are gonna have their eyes on it. How's he gonna fit into the system? Is he gonna transform how United play going forward? Because we've finally got that left-sided defender or wing back, whatever you want to call him, to play in the system. So I agree, Will. I think it does bring pressure to him, and he might not feel like that. He might be a young man that's like, listen, this is the next step. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to like. Lenny Yoro's a good example of that. He doesn't show any kind of pressure whatsoever. Can he be like him? But I'm saying there is pressure for him to perform, whether that's pressure on.
No, I understand. Yeah,
do you know?
No, there is certainly pressure. I think for me, it's one of those things where, as a United fan, I know there's one thing I never will call myself, and even though all of us get the title of this as a job, like an influencer, I don't like the word. It sounds a bit yucky to me. But where I will try to influence Man United fans, and I think we've done that. Football fans have done that from before that word even existed. It's almost like I think there's a right way of behaving and not on certain circumstances. And one of them for me is put pressure on him, but we've got to temper that pressure and put it into perspective. Am I going to put the pressure on him? I would if we went and signed Mbappe today. Absolutely not. And that's what I'm imploring. And I'm using that as an example. Man United fans can help control this narrative. We need to demand that he looks good and that he's playing well and not just ignore it if he's atrocious. But equally, we don't have to go overboard and throw petrol upon any fires that the media or rivals are going to start. And I don't think as a fan base, we do a good enough job of putting out fires around our club. Sometimes it's even if you want to, sometimes it's very knee-jerk to go, I'm going to throw a bit of petrol on this as well and see what goes on. And I don't see how it benefits us. I think that we just need to be excited. I'm excited about him. Of course, there's pressure. Biggest team in England, one of the biggest in the world, everybody's biggest rival. So, of course, there's always that pressure that's put upon these players. But he's still young and he's still fairly a new player. And He's coming mid-season, and I'm going to give him the same sort of leniency that I gave Patrice Evra that came into a very good Man United team. I'm not expecting him to be the world's best left-back in the first 6 months. Do I want to see good games? Yes. I'll criticize it when he isn't good, but I think we need to have some patience. I think we need to give him time to settle into a new country and into new surroundings. But overall, I'm excited about it. And as I did tweet earlier, they are doing it straight away. it's 35 million is what Sky Sports have quoted it as. No, it's 35 million euros. That's including add-ons. You remind us it's 25 million pounds, which I think is a pretty good bit of business.
But I think, look, I think the standards are so low. Surely he's not going to be as bad as most of those United players. So what? He's a left wing back.
He plays left wing back, but he can play left back. He's also played the right side of attack. So what Man United fans don't know, if we think he's going to play left wing back, there is the possibility, though, that he plays in one of those split 10 roles because, again, people say that Amorim doesn't change things up. There are some games where, like Garnacho did this the other day, he was playing that left 10 role, but he spent most of the time out wide, and it was Maz who inverted onto the inside. So there's a couple of positions in this system that's a young
He's
Patrick
played as a striker before as well, apparently, Terry.
Yeah, he's been everywhere. So,
Yeah.
and a Man United fan would be lying if they were like, yeah, I've been scouting him for years and I know what he does. None of us do. So I think there's a couple of places. My gut says left wing back personally, though.
So basically, with all due disrespect, Diego Dalot is atrocious. That guy is horrendous. So there is no way in 6 hells that guy can be worse than Diego Dalot.
But that's why this makes it a marquee signing, though, have hope. Because, again, it's like what Double A said. He's the first one underneath Amorim. And now the expectation is for wherever he's on the pitch for that position to drastically improve. Or else then people are going to be questioning why buy him in the middle of the season.
I think, no. The pressure, even if you want to call it pressure, is like, okay, Amorim's first signing, how's it going to do? But I think a marquee signing is a guy who we know is a top tier player, and there's an expectation. Put it this way, Mbappe. Why were people insulting? Listen, I'm the president of Mbappe FC, so as president of Mbappe FC, I had to accept the abuse because he is the epitome of a marquee signing, and when he produced those bad performances, everyone went at it.
So 100%. You're saying that the marquee fact comes from like the name of the player. Like I was more so thinking about it from like the importance of the player when coming in. I want him to start.
I think it is of the name and of the look. When you're Mbappe, you're a World Cup GOAT, you are Messi's daddy. That comes with expectation of you being a marquee signing and expectation of what you are supposed to do. So a marquee is to do with your importance, but also your talent and how good you and how we perceive you. Okay. So I think Dorgu is all right. Amorim, this is your first signing. How's it going to do? Because a lot of these Ten Hag signings were trash. But for Dorgu himself, there is not an expectation that he is like the next amazing, superb left wing back. And if he isn't a 10 out of 10, oh my gosh, we wasted money because we have an expectation that he's a 10 out of 10. No. So.
Yeah, well, the hope for United will be that if he does take the left wing back role, that Delo goes to the right wing back role where he is better at that because he can use his right, even though he's been awful, he can use his right foot. And in the short term, that will help us a little bit more in relation to that. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I want to see a bit more, but I don't think there'll be any more at United until somebody else goes. So if Chelsea could do us a favour and buy Garnacho, then we may go for somebody else. But
sorry, I said no. We're not doing you any favours. Keep it.
But we've done
you enough favors recently, mate. So you can do us a favor.
This is what I would say about your owners. You dropped £80 million on Mihajlo Mudryk, so to act like you're not going to do this. That's why you're laughing.
Sorry, it's called a prayer. It's called a prayer. My name is Halford, but I'm hoping. I'm hoping for the best.
Have cope, bruv. Man's have cope here right now.
HC.
What are your expectations though, Terry and Double A, for this player? Like, because obviously, like, you're invested in what goes on. It's like it's your club. So, like, what are the expectations now from him during the second half of the season?
I think he comes into it's part of the child's position because we need him. This is the problem. This is the problem I have. If he was coming in as backup to a regular left wing back that we had that was playing well, the pressure's off. He can come in, he can settle in, and we can see how he is for the next 6 months and then. A full preseason at Amorim, he's got that experience because a lot of fans will expect him to start right away. And I'm not saying that I know he'll get good grace from the fans. We've seen it with, I know Xerxes got that little bit of a backlash, but I think that was at the team, not him. But, you know, even Højlund doesn't get the amount of crap he probably should do, especially at Old Trafford anyway. He gets backed. So I know the fans will have the backing of the player, and I will have that patience with him. 20-year-old, we can't expect too much for him. What I was saying was, in terms of he has to hit the ground running, is because of the mess that we're in and the situation we're in. Anyone we bring in has to add value to the team immediately and output.
Do you think he'll come in and start immediately?
I think he has to. I just think we're in a situation he has to.
Yeah, I agree. I look at it this way. I expect him to become a very good player. As in, you know, we've got a new recruitment team, giving it the big and in briefs. I expect him to be good. There's a difference between expecting him to become a good player, though, and expecting him to be the savior of our season, and we suddenly look like one of the best teams in the league, and we go on a massive winning run, and we win 80% of our games. There'll be some United fans online tonight that will start painting that picture, and they'll start setting that as a standard when they know it won't be achieved, just so they can turn around and go, we've been frauded. You haven't been frauded. You're fucking lying at the beginning, you dickhead. So for me, it's about tempering those expectations. I want to see him play well. I expect him to become a Man United player, like I do everyone we sign. Especially players that I wouldn't call him a marquee signing, but he's clearly part of our first team plan. It's different when you sign like young Heaven from Arsenal today. I don't know much about him. He's an 18-year-old. That could just be the flip for profit in a few years, which I think we're going to go down that route like other clubs are doing. So, yeah, I'm just not going to mark out young Patrick as being our saviour. You should never think of any 18, 19, 20-year-old to be your saviour. If your club is looking at a young kid to be your saviour, you know, you've got bigger problems at your football club than you realise. So United fans should be thrilled about Dorgu, should fit the Amorim system well and improve the gameplay. Listen, what we really need, and I know he's got a lot of this, is we need 4 or 5 more players with more strength, more athleticism, more speed. We're such a slow team. It's ridiculous. We really, really are. Southampton are relegated just by Ramsdale done. I was talking about Chelsea earlier. Maybe. We're going to go back to the Chelsea conversation. I'm going to go to some of these super chats that have come through here. First one says, fans, team is crap, gets to second in the table. We're winning the league. Team struggles to get points. Clear Lake suck and Meresca too. Young team with all the potential versus unrealistic fan base. Is there truth in that, Kate?
I think so. I think Chelsea fans of recent times have been spoiled, and they just expect a new manager, new owner to come in and win things. And that's a nice way to be. I'd love to be in a position where my club has won things and fallen off, but you've got to start all over again. It's going to take time. And I know Chelsea fans hate that. And you've got Standards FC and whatnot saying that you've got to demand that we win now. But the Premier League's so competitive. I think you've got to give this guy time. I think Poch was sacked at the wrong time. I think he got Chelsea playing some really good football at the end. And now you've got Meresca and you've already have hope saying that you might be calling for his head soon. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a fair point. This says, I like the price that we got him for. The only problem is he is not Premier League proven. We need that because the majority of our signings have failed to adapt to the league. There is some proof in that. I think Man United have a mad stat, like something like less than 10% of our signings in the last 11 years have been from other Premier League teams. And I think there is some truth in that. I think we probably need more from that market, Josh. You're right. Who were Chelsea before Roman? Had they had only won 8 trophies, including 1 league title before 2005, only had been in the top flight since 1989, and had only had 4 trophies, by 1997.
So who cares? The fact is that when Roman came, we were one of the biggest clubs in the world, and that's all that matters. So this thing about where we were before Roman, who cares? That's it. I mean, thanks for the dub, Stuart, but that's completely irrelevant.
Well, not really, because you were like you've got your success with blood money and cheating most of the time. So.
And you have proof that this was blood money and cheating. Is there?
I have sources, but I can't say it on here because this is the Football Terrace.
But my sources say that Robin was
what you could argue though, your own club grassed itself up for breaking rules though. So there is
which is snitching. So
let's be honest. If you take away Roman Abramovich, you're smaller than Tottenham.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Well, let's be honest.
It's true.
Chelsea
It's
won
true.
a Cup Cup and an FA Cup.
Right?
What
And we
would
won
the
2
Tottenham
Europa
win?
Leagues. So who?
All right,
did.
so I have a question for you guys.
You take out
since,
Roman
like,
Abramovich. If you look up until 2004, we had more trophies than you.
But Roman Abramovich existed, and we are
Yeah,
10
I'm
times
saying
the club
without
that
him-
you are, and we're holding down London, and we're still the only London club to win a UCL. So what are we talking about?
Yeah,
Roman
which one?
happened.
Okay,
So let's
look,
not
if
remove
you-
Roman. He happened.
If Chelsea
Cheating.
folded it before 2004, you folded in 2002, and we folded in 2002, Tottenham would have gone down as a bigger football club.
But that didn't happen. So let's not rewrite history. History
I'm saying
states
as a
that
hypothetical, if that would have happened.
I don't do hypotheticals, I do
If
reatheticals.
Roman Abramovich bought Spurs, right, to that tomorrow, and we had 25 years of elite success and won 2 Champions Leagues, and then you and 5 or 6 league titles, and then you didn't win anything for the next 17 years, we'd be roughly the same size.
So,
football club as
okay, so Henry, you truly believe Roman Abramovich will look at Hammersmith
you. Okay,
and look
let's
at
say-
Tottenham, and
Hang on,
he'll
let's say
choose
the
Tottenham
Man-
over
hang on a minute.
Hammersmith?
You know, he did try to buy Tottenham first. That is an absolute.
Well, he didn't.
Fact. No, but no, hang on, but that's not.
So that's
the
not
point.
saying we can't be
You
bought
said,
in.
hang on, sorry, Henry. But your point a second ago was why would he have bought a Chelsea over a Spurs? He tried to buy Spurs first. So Chelsea are a big club. There's no doubt he turned them into one. But this idea that he tried to buy Spurs first because they were seen as a bigger club than Chelsea at the time. Spurs just stupidly turned it down.
Yeah.
Imagine it'd be a completely different world if that had happened. It
Obviously
really would have done.
now, because you've had that success.
Yeah.
You
Will,
are
you had a question.
a
Will, you had a
beautiful club.
question.
Yeah, no. So like, I kind of always see like that banter where, and I guess like for example, like with Chelsea and well, where would you be without Roman, or like with Man City and like where would you be without your like oil owners or whatever? But it's like can't you kind of say that for every single team because
No.
we
You can't
just
say about
happen to
Man
be
United or Liverpool.
well. Wait, hold on, wait. What, no, like
Or Arsenal, really.
wait, but like so what I'm saying by that is these other big teams, their success just came before our lifetimes, right? But now,
So,
like a Man City and Chelsea, we're
so
just
the-
living through
So
when they
the
become a big successful club.
yeah,
So
but
it's like, why is that?
the difference is it's the origins of these clubs and where they come from. Now, I'm not someone that's against billionaires getting involved in the game, so I'm speaking objectively here. I'm not against it. I never had a problem with Roman, and I never had a problem with the Sheikh. That's because Man United actually generate enough money where we should be able to compete. So maybe that's why it didn't bother me. The problem a lot of people in England have is that yes, most clubs were owned by the local rich person, as an example. However, all the clubs up until that era that were successful, it was typically bought. Blackburn did it first, by the way, and there was pushback against them in the UK prior. It was typically born out of developing brilliant teams that grew the size of your football club organically over decades and decades and decades, and in some cases over a century. And then Blackburn were the first. And what would happen is then Liverpool started getting massive sponsorship deals in the 70s and 80s because they were winning all these trophies that like nobody else had ever done before. United, obviously, in the 90s, it was just coincidental that Fergie's quality started peaking at the same time as the Premier League came out. We benefited from the growth of being the team at that time. The Premier League started 5 years earlier. The lives of sort of Aston Villa, Everton, and Leeds fans could have been a lot different as well. But essentially, when you speak to fans from these clubs, that you know, we go back those 30, 40 years, the grandparents and the parents of the current fans physically built all these football clubs. And it was always sort of meant to be about you build a good football team and you kind of grow as an example. And there was a feeling of when clubs started getting taken over by, at the beginning, multimillionaires who just pumped unlimited money in, and then billionaires that pumped even more in, there was this feeling that, well, this wasn't ever how clubs became successful, and it kind of went against the sort of grain of and traditions of football in that way. So, look, everyone views it differently, and I'm sure if you've been taken over by a multimillionaire, like Blackburn fans don't care, and sort of, and we're all in that space now. We're owned by billionaires, really and truly. So no one can now sit there and say, "Well, I'm against it," because you're continuing to support the teams. But that's why there was always a lot of needle that suddenly the landscape had changed in a way that it never had done before, and people felt that it went against the traditions of football here in England. And you got it in Germany. So Germany have a different model with the ownership. Most 95% of Germans cannot stand the Leipzig model because it goes against over 130 years of tradition. And what you've got to remember as well, and I don't, people won't like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Every country will have this. but for a lot of them, their actual day-to-day life and culture is intertwined with football. So when suddenly that culture changes because and when I say foreign objects, the owners of Blackburn were from the UK. An owner came in and started pumping money in like never before. There is a kickback because it's sort of seen as, hang on, this isn't how this is meant to be, because it's looked at from a cultural perspective as well. And you have that in Germany in a massive way. So again, I'm not against it because maybe because of my age, but that's where the kickback comes from, Will, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense.
Also, Will, City would be in Division 2 if they didn't have the owners. So that's their level. Let's not ever forget that.
Financial doping.
Let's never forget that.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I said it. People said, but Terry, like your owners were millionaires. No, I understand that, but these things were built up over generations and generations and generations. And as I said, I'm not opposed to any of these owners coming in before you kick back at me. I'm just telling you, I was just, maybe it's my age, and I was able to speak to older West Ham fans, Spurs fans, Leyton Orient fans. You know, even to this day, you speak to them, and a lot of them don't like. There's people in my family that stopped watching football in the 90s because they didn't like the idea of the Premier League. They said the Premier League was never what it was meant to be about. They believed that the Premier League had so much more money than the Championship and all the other, well, it was back then Division 1, that you were creating a gulf and a divide in the country. And a lot of people turned their back on football because of it, because it was never meant, in their view, it was never meant to be that way. So that's why there's always a little bit of needle from fans, but they say, without your billion, because there is an element of truth to it. You know, Blackburn wouldn't have had that success had they not had this new owner come in and throw money. It wasn't like it was built up over 100 years. You know, you've got to remember, like Man United's fan base, Man United had over 60,000 strong United supporters club in the 1950s, because Man United would come to London and the Busby Babes would play football, and youngsters from all around London, all around the country, would watch it and go, you know, what is this brand of football? They'd never seen it before. And it was iconic and beautiful. And I'm going to support that team. That's how our fan base started to grow. But that's an organic, and it's not like sort of trying to like sort of gatekeep what people can do, but that was how teams grew in those day and age. So there is a generation of football fans in England who don't like the idea of someone rich turning up and just going, right, we're just going to buy all the best players, rather than kind of create what was deemed the organic way. But then again, it's evolved again. And another couple of generations, people won't even remember that. It'll all be about how good are your billionaire owners and how much money are they willing to invest? And that's how it's become. So City's owners are looked at as brilliant by the new generation because they spend and they want to win and they've got ambition. And what's the phrase? They're a serious club. So what you've had in the last 30 years is this crossover of generations and football change. So in another 100 years, no one will probably care about it because nobody alive will remember how it used to be. So yeah, it swings and roundabouts. But by then there might be something new that comes in, and the trillionaires take over, and all the billionaire kids will go, this is bullshit. I liked it when it was just billionaires, you know? It will happen. It really will happen, in my opinion. So, super chats here. This one says, nicely explained, Terry, and now they can call the Red Cartel. We should be called the Blood, Sweat, and Hard Work Cartel. What I would say about that is that we're all now owned by billionaires. So, in my opinion, none of us can talk like that. We've all gone into somewhere similar to those models, as far as I'm concerned. So no, none of us have we're all standing in a glass house with big rocks in our hands.
Well, we're a little bit different, Terry, because we've got broke billionaires at our club.
Yeah, brokies. Who have invested 300 million. But yeah, broke. Football also did not end when Roman came in. Football clubs tend to dominate when they have money and structure. And listen, that was why that Fergie team that dominated that Roman team. That's why I love them so much, because Fergie's side won more league titles and won more trophies than them. So for me, it was doable. It's always been doable if you were run right. Can we let Pogba go? Do you reckon Pogba's going to come back to United? Anyone think that's going to happen?
Absolutely
no
not.
chance.
Should come to Madrid.
I think he'll end up in Saudi or the MLS.
Yeah. Well, Brazil was mentioned, wasn't it? Corinthians.
Brazil. With
Neymar. No, wait. Pogba
he's got to Santos
to play at a top club at a high level. So I'm hoping that he stays in Europe.
I think that's the idea, because I think he still wants to compete. Because obviously, he wants to bow out at the World Cup in Trump country. But I think to do that, he wants to pretty much maintain his level to pretty much play at the high level. So I don't think Saudi and MLS is where he really wants to be going. So
I think if Pogba's fit, he walks into everyone's team that's on this panel right now. He's a top player, bro.
Oh, absolutely. I love both Paul.
He's a moments player, though, isn't he? When he
No.
turns
He
on,
can't play to a
he's world
match.
class, but he's the other.
Yeah.
What do you mean by like
37
moments,
games.
though, Henry? Like what does that expression mean? Like when you say
Like,
that?
so like he can grab the game by the scruff of the neck and win it single handedly.
Okay.
He's got that. He can do an 80-yard diagonal pass to feet. He's flair on the ball. He's touch. He's fantastic when he's on it, and when he plays for France, he's on it. Like they go against Switzerland in the Euros. I know they got knocked out on penalties, but it was an absolute joke. But can you keep him fit 38 games a season? And this is, let's be honest, his next move is going to be his last move. Like it's going to be his last big move, and every club's going to be thinking, you know, Pogba on a free. You get the brand, you get the name.
You have to do it.
I don't think Man United would be that club.
But Pogba is an emotional guy, though. Like you can tell by his decision making. Like because I feel like he could have won so much more, right? He could have went to like Madrid. He could have went to Barca, but he chose to go to Manchester United, that big money move, and then maybe instead of then taking that leap when he left on a free to maybe go to a bigger club, then he goes back to Juve. So I think if United are interested, I could definitely see him going back there, but.
Yeah, if we're interested,
the wrong move, though.
No, I hear you on that. This year says Chelsea have wasted a lot of money on the wrong signings between Madueke, Mudryk, and Neto. They spent 175 million. Got Sancho on loan. He's going to cost 25 million, and still willing to spend 65. When you actually look at that, that would be 260 million pound on wingers. And how many would you genuinely say are title-winning level? Sancho?
None.
No, I wouldn't say Sancho. He's not proved it in the Premier League for me.
I think they're all very, very inconsistent. You know, Mudryk, well, he's not going to play anytime soon. Madueke, another one who can have 3 out of 10 really good games. Hat-trick against Wolves. He'll grab a couple of goals here or there, but you know, Sancho, lots of ability, massively inconsistent. The one I did think would do a lot better is Neto. I think Chelsea could manage his minutes more. Not having to play 90 minutes week in, week out of Wolves.
Yeah.
I thought he would do a lot better.
He's had the availability, just not a lot of output. Chelsea need 2 top quality centre-backs, a top keeper and a world-class striker. The current back line, along with the keeper, is not good enough to win a league or Champions League. I think Chelsea fans would agree with that. The best transfer business Chelsea did since the takeover was sell Kai Havertz and Mount for big money. That's actually true. Well, Kyle Palmer as well, of course. And Caicedo has been very good. Don't forget Sterling is also coming back in the summer. That's true. Sterling's on his way back.
That's another winger that they paid, 50 million for?
Maybe bar Liverpool and United. Everyone else had success when they were rich. Arsenal in the 30s. Why were they rich in the 30s? I would love to know. City with their owners, Blackburn, Forest, etc. There is an element of that, but it's also having the right manager and building the right teams. Just the great side were able to capitalize on it, maintain the income, grow the fan base, and continue growing. You know, and then a lot of teams like Nottingham Forest, bad decisions in the late 80s, early 90s. And hello, gorgeous.
Someone's going to bed.
Good night. Bye.
Bless.
Henry as Kate apologized to you about Ange.
About Argo? Oh, about Ange.
I have no idea what.
Don't start all this crap. I've already been asked to apologise to people because I haven't changed my mind.
That's a great segue, though. That's a great segue. Why hasn't
address this, Terry? The narrative that if you change your opinion, you're a flip flop is like what? So no one has ever changed their opinion in football, ever. Like it's fucking madness. But look,
yeah. Why has Ange not been sacked?
Well,
Carabao Cup.
I said this the other day after the Leicester game, and I'm not lying when I say this. I'm not doing this for reaction. I'm not doing this for clicks or anything. They aren't going to sack him. He's still going to be here in May. So all the reports are coming out that that they're prepared to back him. Then why have we only brought in Kingsky in January?
So if he finished 17th, he wouldn't go. If he finished 17th, 1 point ahead of the relegation, he still gets kept.
The problem is is we've been down the route of let's get an elite gaffer who will come in and win us trophies. We tried that with Jose and Conte, who collectively have got over 40 trophies between them. The problem is, and this isn't letting Ange off the hook because I think tactically he's a disaster at times, but we're at a point now where all the numbers are coming out on the financial side of things with Tottenham. We spend 48% of our revenue on our wage bill, which is 9% less than from the second lowest. Crystal Palace do 99% of their club's revenue on their team's wages, which tells you that the team is the most important thing. Daniel Levy, like Ange Postecoglou, has been horrendous in some of the games this season. But if they're completely behind Ange, then why have we not brought in centre-backs? Why have we not brought in a DM? Why have we not brought in a forward who can actually put the ball in the back of the net?
Daniel Levy.
Precisely. So then the club spokesmen have come out, Ali Gold and Paul O'Keefe, and said that when you've got people that are connected to the football club saying how bad it is inside behind closed doors, and then you look at our injury department, we've got 8 fit players out of our 25-man squad, and only 6 of those are over the age of 18. Now what is our medical team doing? Throughout Premier League history, do not recall an injury crisis like this. 6 players over the age of 18 fit. We've got Bergvall and Gray.
Sorry, I was going to say 2 medical directors have left this year last year because they won't work with Ange Postecoglou. So something's definitely not right with the whole training. But go on, Henry. Sorry.
There's a lot of ICKs coming out now saying that the intensity in the training is similar to a match day. So that when obviously you normally have recovery, you have training, you have a schedule throughout the week. It's at the point now where players are essentially doing a 90-minute training session, but at game level. Now, you can be fit and you can be match fit. I think only 3 of our players right now are match fit, and one of those is the goalkeeper. He's at a point now. James Maddison today just been announced he's out for 4 weeks. We've got an entire 11. Everyone in our 11, other than Pedro Porro and Dejan Kulusevski, is injured. We got a game tomorrow night, or Thursday, a couple of nights' time against Elversborg, whatever. They're like 23rd in the Europa League. We'll beat them, probably 2 or 3-0, and then everyone will be back on the, happy days. Then you look at our run of fixtures from Brentford to Chelsea, I don't see a win. So if we're prepared to back this manager, when I said relegation before the Everton game, if Everton beat Leicester on Sunday and we lose to Brentford, which is looking likely, we're 16th. We'd be 6 points off the relegation zone. Oh, there's got to be a point now where if they're prepared to back him, like Tyler Diblin's a good player, but it's not what we need, is it? We need defenders. We need midfielders. And I'd argue right now we've got the worst centre-back pairing in the Premier League. And one of those players isn't even a fucking centre-back. He's a midfielder who spent more of his games as a professional player at Spurs playing out of position. And then the narrative, Daniel Levy's about apparent wall. The rumours are he's going to give himself another 250 grand a year pay rise. So as it stands right now, the only chairman in Europe which is paid higher, does anyone know who it is? Florentino Perez, who's delivered 9 Champions Leagues since being the chief of Real Madrid. We've delivered an F1 go-kart and all these concerts. It's a fucking joke. Like, it's actually the point where
I hear you, Henry. I want to throw this to Will. I know you got to shoot, Kate. Thank you. Are you shooting, Kate?
No, not me. It was have hope.
Oh, so have hope. I thought you were saying see you to us. Sorry. I want to throw this to Will, right? I want to throw this to Will. Do you think it's conceivable if Big Ange stays that they could go down?
You're on mute.
Was I muted?
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
You spoke a lot of sense, though.
So I don't think that they'll get relegated even if Ange stays, but I don't think they'll necessarily improve either. I think they'll kind of stay like around where they are. But it's like what Have Hope said right before he left. I think the reason that he's still in a job is because of the Carabao Cup. and I know that, obviously like Henry and Kate would know more about what's going on at Tottenham, but I don't necessarily agree with the notion that he would stay even with that competition like just being disregarded. I can't see him being here in May because I do think
just
that
sorry to
Levy,
interrupt you. Just one question, because I get this a lot. Why would they not sack him? What manager right now would touch the football club, looking at the injury crisis, looking at the fact that ENIC out is trending? They've got 60 more police officers prepared for the Manchester United game because of a protest. What manager right now will
anyone from the Championship?
Big Sam, he'll do a job.
And do they improve us right now?
Yes.
Big Sam would.
Well,
Big Sam would.
I think that they do improve you only because Ange is so naive tactically that I think it wouldn't be hard for somebody else to come in and make you look a little bit more organized and a little bit more prepared for certain games. Because I just think the tactics that Ange employs is not for a team in the Premier League. I think he needs to do that back like in Scotland, where you're the only good team and you can just batter everybody. But I think like when you don't have the best squad, you can't play like how he wants. So I don't even think that it would be that hard to just get a manager that would have different tactics. Now, in terms of a specific manager, no disrespect, but you're Tottenham. So I can't necessarily like list off managers because all the managers that I would think of would be people who I wouldn't think would come. So I think you would have to look maybe at like, it's like what Terry said, like some like championship managers.
What about like someone
maybe
like
somebody from
Mariota
a different
Bournemouth?
league?
I think he's enjoyed a good season. I don't think he'd join what they're doing.
Do you not think we could quadruple his salary?
Potentially. I mean, do what United did with Amorim and just listen. This is what we want to do with you. Give him the backing. This season's a write-off. Do what you can. Try and get us as high as you can up the league. Next season, they have to promise some backing. That's the problem. That's where your hands are tied.
Nothing fucking happens.
That's where.
Funny enough, right? Like Henry and Kate, I actually do think that Tottenham win the Carabao Cup this season.
Nah.
Like that's my that's my bold prediction. I think that you guys see a trophy this season. Now the question is, if that does happen, right? Let's say you guys do win that trophy, but you're still, let's say, like 15th. Then do you sack him still to try and save the Premier League season?
Well, it's another Ten Hag situation, isn't it? It's Ten Hag 2.0.
No, Steve, but it's different because of the lack of trophies that your team has seen. So I think like a Carabao Cup would mean a lot.
Oh yeah, we'd gone 7 years before Ten Hag, and that's why Ten Hag got so much backing because he stopped that 7-year drought. And then I was about to say to Henry and Kate,
No, I was asking like the 7-year drought of what?
So we haven't won a trophy for 7 years until Ten Hag won that Carabao Cup in his first season. We've not won a trophy since 2017.
We were at 17 years.
I know, but
was that with Mourinho?
Yeah. We've not won a trophy since the Europa League. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You could lead on to a good point because I was going to say to Henry and Kate, there's a manager out there that's used to a lot of injuries and still winning trophies in the same season. He hasn't got a job right now. You could get in there right before Dortmund. Ten Hag could come in and do He's available. Go and get him. I'm telling. I will give him a reference for you guys. He'll come in. He'll win you a trophy. And then he'll be an absolute fucking nightmare. But you're used to that, aren't you? So I'd say Ten Hag in for me.
Would you take the Carabao Cup?
That for once.
Wait, so Henry and Kate, question for you. Would you take the Carabao Cup if I can guarantee you that trophy right now? But then I also said you come 17th. So like a spot above. Yeah. No, sorry. By like 15th, 16th. Let's not do 17th.
Yeah.
Would you take that? Because you're
I'd
not
take 17th. And staying above in the Premier League on goal difference if it meant we have something at the end of the trophy, at the end of the season, so I can say, this is what we've got. Because at the moment, we haven't done anything in 17 years. But go on, Kate.
Would you be happy like with that? Like, would you be nicer to Ange? Like, would you say Ange in if he wins you a trophy?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Because it's ridiculous. This is the worst Tottenham team.
Do you know what?
Statistically,
I rate that because that's standards. That's not selling yourself for a trophy, and that's what you need. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to. Listen, we suffered it last season. I'm speaking from experience. Ten Hag should have gone last season because that league season to finish, I know it's 8th, but the worst ever Premier League finish for Manchester United, minus goal difference. One game in the FA Cup final was not papering over no cracks. I mean, Spurs fans are right to be the exact same way. I don't think they'll win it. I just think Liverpool and Newcastle will have too much.
I don't even know what our team is going to be against Liverpool.
Well, like you were saying before we went live, you've only got like 8 players over the age of 18 that are fit. And that's the whole thing about the Carabao. I just don't see how you go to. The only way you win at Anfield is if for some reason Slot goes super rotated weak and doesn't have big hitters on the bench. I just can't imagine between those players, the manager, and their crowd under the lights, they're going to let a vulnerable, because it would be one of the worst defeats in Anfield history to have a team. Just forget the 2 legs. To lose to this Spurs team at home with your injury problems, with being in a relegation battle, if they were to lose a semi-final to you, like that's a bad day in the office for them.
Do you know what they're calling it? They're calling it Manchester City versus Wigan. That's what they're referring to that game is.
It's a little bit like it. I mean, they won the FA Cup and got relegated, and maybe you guys, mate, if you guys did that, that'd be beautiful, beautiful. But then you could win the championship next year, so win-win.
Kate, can I ask you something before you come in? Would
2
you
trophies in 2 years and a league title?
Would you
And
get
you could
relegated?
you could even put it on your website and like change the wording so it says championship, but you can make it look like Champions League. Like you could do something.
That end of season DVD would bang as well, guys. Let's not.
Serious question, Kate. Would you get relegated if it meant Daniel Levy goes?
No, not in a million years. I think relegation is never the answer. I don't think people realise
if he's fully out of the club.
Doesn't mean it. No, not in a million years. People don't realise how disastrous it would be if we got relegated. Bearing in mind we still owe a fortune on our stadium. Our players would all go. And I honestly think if we did get relegated, we wouldn't come straight back up. The championship is brutal. It is absolutely savage down there. And I could see us being like a bit like Villa and have a few years in the championship before we come back up. So there's nothing that would make me want to get relegated in a million years. I think it's crazy people are saying that they take it. Because the other thing is, if we get rid of Levy and Enoch, who I don't like, and I would love to see him leave, there's no guarantee we're going to get anyone better. We could get someone
if I could revise the question, then would you take the relegation if it was guaranteed that like Saudis would come in and buy your club?
No.
No? Okay, fair enough.
I'd never take getting relegated for anything.
Saudis.
Ever.
Are we talking the Newcastle sort of Saudis, or see our PSR?
Okay.
Qatar about.
Go out and spend a fucking lot.
Okay, well, like the ambitious kind of Saudis, like that they want to win, like they'll try to move,
just a shake.
Yeah. Like they'll try to move like Man City once they get hold of the club. But you just got to get relegated. You got to do next season in the championship.
How much I would get relegated and spend 5 years in the championship if it meant though. Just listen, hear me out. If it meant in 6 years when we come back up, we get into the January market. And we buy what we need, and we attract top tier players.
I find that so weird that any fan would want, because it's some people in the chat
Villa right now. Villa have got relegated. Villa are in the Champions League.
Yeah, but we get asked all the time, would we get relegated if the Glazers went? And it has to be a massive no. I can't.
Can we get any lower right now? 17 years.
What you're missing, Henry? What you're missing is okay. If I could say to Kate, I can guarantee you Saudi owners that run the club brilliantly, that buy all the players you need, that build you a brilliant team, that are amazing owners. Well, it's not a fucking gamble then, because you know the fucking result. This only works if it's a gamble still, because if you know the outcome, it's not a gamble, is it? Right? So if the answer is you get new owners, no matter where they're from, how rich they are, there are loads of billionaire owners that have taken over clubs, that have taken them backwards and ruined them. There are people from the Middle East who have bought clubs that are billionaires and haven't done great jobs. So there's no people always say they wanted the Qataris at United. I did. But let's not pretend like they've done the world's most amazing job with PSG. Like, let's be very... So this is the point. So the gamble is, Henry, you get relegated, you do get new owners, but you've got no idea how good or bad they're going to be. Do you take the risk?
You can't.
Who would you stream with, Henry? If you're in
if I didn't know, no, I probably wouldn't.
Who would you stream with?
The question that Will said.
You got to remember, Henry, your whole career is over as well. Hang on, Henry, your whole career's over as well. No more streaming, no more top six, no more No one cares who you are anymore. You're in the championship.
Is he not an EFL top 6 show anywhere? No, he can't.
I don't even think I mean, I don't know how long we're going to be invited on this show because, like, top 6, we're bottom 4 or whatever.
Hey,
but,
Kate, these people in the chat going on that used to, and I'm here. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
I know. My theory is with Ange. This is a theory, and I'm not saying I support it. It's just something I was thinking about because this club is making my brain explode at the minute. Ange came in and he said right from the off that he's not interested in top 4. He wants to change the mentality of the club. He always wins something in his second season, blah, 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 blah. And I'm wondering if his job is being saved because Levy sort of said to him, well, look, you said you win something every season. We're obviously not going to do anything in the league. We can't get relegated. You've got to make sure we don't get relegated, but you have to win something this year. If you don't, you're out the door.
What you have? Sorry, go on. Sorry,
I was just going to say, if Levy sacks this guy, it's another acknowledgement that he's made a mistake because he's employed a guy that isn't good enough, and Levy is not good at admitting he's wrong.
What you've got to be mindful of as well, because my club was brilliant at doing this, is as it looks more and more likely he's going to get sacked, you will get more and more stories out from people like Levy. The training's too intense. He's injuring the players. He did this thing wrong. He did that. We stood by him because he said this. I'm not saying he's shouldn't be blamed for stuff, Ange. But the club will paint the picture so that you start looking. All clubs do this. So you start purely looking at the manager. When we remember, none of these guys are managers. They're head coaches of the first team. They don't run their football clubs. We have to, we as English sort of people that watch the English league, we get suckered in because we're used to the old-fashioned way of managers run clubs. Managers don't run clubs. So even if a head coach or a manager says, "I want to change the rules in the canteen so first-team players can't eat with youth players," which has happened at Man United with Ten Hag. The people that run the club and go, "Fuck off." You're not doing that. Like, they still run the club. If you let them, do you know what I mean? It's if Ange is making training that intense, still blame Levy. Why are you allowing him to do that? That is, I look at those things. Say you're allowing a head coach to train a team so intensely that hamstrings are snapping like eggs breaking in a kitchen, right? The people running the club, if they allow that to happen, they're not backing Ange. They're setting him up for failure by allowing him. Like any of us in our job, if you're doing something wrong, right, and it's failing, and your bosses just let you keep doing it, there comes a point where it's no longer your fault. It's the people that are allowing you to do it. So Spurs fans shouldn't lose sight of that. The Bottom 8 podcast, it's kind of true, to be fair. A man that's desperate makes me hate Levy too, is what Ronin says. To Will's point, make it against basketball game. Sorry.
Make it a basketball game combine.
Okay, injuries.
It's self-sabotage. But for Kate and Henry, and it's tough. I have no idea what I'm reading right now.
I think because I thought you meant argument. It means Ange. He says, to Will's point, Ange makes it a basketball game. Combine that with the injuries, it's self-sabotage from Ange. But for Kate and Henry, and it's tough, would you be in favor of going down to promote change in ownership?
Well done, that's brilliant.
I mean, the funny thing is as well, I'm saying about a basketball game, I think we're third top goal scorers in the league, and yet we're sitting just above the relegation spots. It's. I think I'm in a parallel universe sometimes.
This here says Levy leaves and you don't get relegated. What will Rotherham be left with? No money, and they do you know what I did see, which was annoying? I saw Sky today talking about the banner that you guys had outside, basically saying, how dare those Spurs fans sitting in that new beautiful stadium complain about their owners? Don't be suckered in by the media. They did that about the Glazers this is what I mean by the media. For nearly 20 years, they gaslit us into saying, well, look how much money they spend on transfers. Look at the wage bill. They're not bad owners. Only now to have the complete opposite reaction to Ineos. And I'm not a fan of everything Ineos have done, but the lack of attention to the Glazers for the best part of 2 decades compared to what Ineos are getting is crazy. And they keep doing this. Well, are they any different? Well, they've pumped £300 million in. They've just had it all agreed to build a new 100,000-seat stadium. I am not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying they're brilliant. I'm stating don't say they're the fucking same thing. It's a crazy comment to make, in my opinion. Arsenal, just according to a quote sent through to me a minute ago, according to David Ornstein, he's kind of not contradicted because maybe they did make the inquiry. What Fabrizio said earlier today, that Arsenal made an inquiry about Duran. He has said they're not going to sign Duran. They've obviously been linked to the likes of Cunha and other players in recent days and weeks. Does anybody see Arsenal doing any business between now and the end of the window? What is there, 4 or 5 days left?
They don't
No.
need to. They've got Havertz. So, he's got one of the best strikers in the league. Keep him.
Do you guys think that they're not signing anyone this month to go all out for Isak or someone in the summer? Because there's now concrete links that Buemo from Brentford, they're going to move him in the summer. Nico Williams, they're going to move for him in the summer. But it's the same old story, isn't it? It's next season will be good. Next season will be good. If Arteta doesn't win anything this season, which is looking, quite likely, I'd still back Real Madrid in 15th in the Champions League to go all the way, just because that's what they do. And I don't think they're as good as Liverpool this season. But from looking at from an Arsenal perspective, why are they going out and signing anyone? Like, you're so close. You're so close to winning the league. If tomorrow, if Gyökeres and Williams signed, Liverpool fans' entire opinion would be flipped on their head and be thinking, right, now we've got a dogfight here. But they won't do it.
Wait, you said Gyökeres and who?
And Nico Williams. Or I'm just throwing
okay.
Like, if Nico Williams tomorrow, 55 million euro release clause has been triggered, or even if they went 60 million on John Duran, he still makes Liverpool right now as firepower. He's so better than Arsenal's right now. Even if you take Salah and Gakpo out, Diaz starts for Arsenal right now. Jota starts for Arsenal right now. Núñez is bagging important goals.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, Henry, and I do agree with you in terms of like the point that you first made. I think the reason why they're not signing anybody right now is because whoever they want that they feel could take them to that next level is just maybe not available. And I don't necessarily think you should just go out there and sign an attacker just for the sake of just signing one, because then now that's going to affect what you can do in the summer. And I don't necessarily think, for example, like John Duran from Aston Villa, I think he's a decent striker, but I think he's way overpriced. And you're going to have to spend a lot of money because now you're going to have to go to Aston Villa and you're going to have to basically hope that they give you a fair price for a player that they do rely on off the bench for them. So I don't think they're going to sign anybody, or if they do, it's not going to be anyone of significance. And for me, I think even with the signing, I just think that their season in terms of the Premier League is done. Maybe in the Champions League, they could make some noise. But if I was them, I would wait until the summer, and then I would go all out for like an Isak. I think that's.
But then again, if Newcastle get in the top four, let's say hypothetically, Newcastle win the League Cup.
That's why,
Newcastle get in the top four.
But that's why waiting. But that's why waiting. I understand the narrative. But you again, what if they win a trophy, Newcastle, and they make it into the Champions League? Top 5 are probably going to make it into the Champions League. That's going to give them so much more money to spend. They're going to give them a bigger increase. And they might just say no. They might just say we are not accepting anything at that point as a club, and then Arsenal were left with it with their penis in their hand. And
but
I just
look at like Victor then from Sporting. I don't think it matters what they do.
No, I understand that, but at the same time, you can go. He's got a release clause now. Go and get it. Half the price of what Isak is if they don't make it into the Champions League. Does he have a release
clause though? Like
so his release clause now is 80 million euros. So what's that? About 70 million pound. And in the summer, it's 20 million cheaper. But the point is, you could get Gyökeres now for half the price of what Isak minimum cost you in the summer. And
so then disregard like what I said. Then I didn't know that he had a release clause. I didn't know that.
I kind of get you should go for your number one targets most of the time, but Arsenal are in a position. I mean, they're saying they're not in. It's saying now they're not in for Duran. I think Duran would be an excellent piece of business for them. I think he scores a lot of the goals recently that Kai Havertz has missed. He scores ridiculous goals that are like low XG that change games. We're thinking, oh, this might be a draw. Bang, 30-yard screamer into a top corner. It's just something different. There are players out there. I just think Arsenal. It's no sort of skin off my nose, but I think they're Arsenal's board are letting Arsenal fans down here. I think I wouldn't say go stupid and spend 100 million on a 30 million pound player, nothing crazy, but I think there are people that are gettable at the right price this window, and maybe something will still happen. But they sign no one, especially with their injury problems. You know, a lot of their fans are now talking about young Tell that's available from Bayern Munich. Again, good player. Is he the bagsman they need? Is he going to get the goals they need? Because it's
No.
goals they need to add to this team, I think, Arsenal. I really do. But
Why are they not looking at Osimhen? Like, why has no one gone in for him?
no one's. No
Wait,
one's
but isn't he
looking
on loan at Galatasaray?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he
but-
said he wants to stay. I think he wants to stay at Galatasaray. I think he said that because I know we were linked with him with all the whole guy.
But at least test the water. Go
I
to that
agree.
league, man. It's 70 million euros or
I
something.
agree. And again, for a club that's won nothing in 5 years, and you know, again, all the fans were expecting him to push City closer this year. It just shows a lack of ambition. I mean, there's no excuse. There's players out there you can go and get, and even if it's not, even loan signings, there was people they could have gone, even just for a body. You know, Kolo Muani, not a massive fan. Goes and scores a debut goal for Juve. Player they could have brought in for 6 months just to have that body. That
Even Boniface, the guy at Leverkusen is about to Joe Saudi. Bring him in for a 6-month loan.
Anything.
and it looks like, by the way, Evan Ferguson's going in the opposite direction. He's going to go to Leverkusen on loan. Leverkusen are looking at him, and they're also looking at McAtee as well from City. On City, it's been said today that they are very close to landing a deal for Andrea Cambiaso. From
is he like, what's his profile? Because I think the only thing that City are missing is a physical presence in that midfield.
It's not. Nah, so he's a fullback, isn't he? He's not really. He's not a midfielder.
Yes.
He's a defender.
He's
Yeah,
a fullback,
And he's not a midfielder.
No, he's not a midfielder at all. He's a fullback. I think is he a right-footed left back, or he can play left back? I think he's both footed.
I think he's both footed, is what I read. I
Yeah,
don't know much about him. I don't know much about him.
He's played on both sides. I'm in a group chat with a load of Juve fans, and they're not too fussed. So that tells you he's not had a good season. They're not too fussed. If they're getting 67 million euros, they're going to absolutely be more than happy with it. Because they've just gone and got, what's he called? Is it the kid from Chelsea, the Portuguese fullback? They've just gone and got him on loan at Juve. So there you go. That's the one. So I mean, Pep might turn him into one of the best fullbacks in the league, but it's someone they need, obviously, because Walker's gone. But I'm not. It's not a signing that makes you go, "Wow." Do you know what I mean? And he's
why aren't they looking at a midfielder? Like, I like the business that they've done. Like, I like Marmouche. I like the 2 young center backs. But like, why not a midfielder? Like, why are they now going after? And I get it. Kyle Walker is left. But you have Rico Lewis who could run that right back.
Listen, I agree with you. Most City fans online that I follow, just reading their tweets, they've all said the same thing. Great, like this, I like that. But why no midfield player? Come out of the Italian press just in the last hour that Douglas Luiz is available for around 45 million euros. So what's that in pounds? That's going to be about what, 35 million pounds?
Just signed him.
37 million for someone like Douglas Luiz. They don't want to loan him, they want to sell him. Again, I kind of like that deal at 37 million.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to drop off. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked for him in Serie A. But we know how good he was for the last 2 or 3 years in the Prem. But Man United, we need legs in the midfield. If we went and bought him for 37 million, I'd be quite happy with that.
Very happy.
I think he's starting.
Yeah, and I think Douglas Luiz is a City player as well.
Yeah.
Like they bought him into England. I swear Man City brought Douglas Luiz when he was in Brazil still. And then like they loaned him and then they sold him.
Yeah.
So Pep Guardiola already identified him as a player that he views that he can use in the systems and what he likes to play. So
I
do you guys think I know you want to move on, Terry, but do you guys think Rashford could actually stay at Man United?
That was one of our super chats. Was thoughts on what Ruben said about Rashford.
I don't think he can. Yeah, I don't think he can.
Yeah.
No, after that, I mean, we know the whole. I don't want to really talk about it, but the Sancho and Ten Hag situation. This is 10 times worse than that because he didn't. Obviously, he was asked about Rashford, but saying you'd rather put a 63-year-old goalkeeping coach on the bench rather than, you know, your second highest earner at the club, the franchise player, the man born and bred forward who can't get anywhere near the starting lineup for 11 games, tells me everything you need to know. I don't think there is a way back for him. And one thing that I loved most about it was he was clearly annoyed, and he's basically saying, "Stop asking me about him every single press conference. I'm sick of hearing his name. I've told you time and time again. If he doesn't do this, he's getting nowhere near the team." And he's
where is he most likely to? Because Dortmund were interested.
I think Dortmund is our only option because he wants Barca, but I think Barca have even come out and said it'd have to be a summer thing. They can't afford him.
Yeah,
now.
they ain't got no. I agree. Just back to before Henry moves it on. I just on the sort of comment. It was interesting because I listened to him say it in real time, and I didn't take it as a big dig at Rashford because if you watch the full piece, he was asking him about Rashford, and he just said same answer as before, and they kept on pressing him, and he essentially then started talking in generics, and he just said, "Look," he said, "I've told you guys before, and I'll tell you again. I don't pick players that are not given their all if their lifestyle isn't right." And I know he made a joke of it before, but it's like people turning up, wearing the right things, behaving the right way, doing the correct things. And he hasn't ever gone into specifics, but at United in the last 11 years, there's been people that have gone out the night before games and training, stayed up late playing PlayStation games, all these little things that are part of your lifestyle. He has said, if you're doing bad things or doing things outside of the rules we set as athletes, you're not going to play. He then goes on to say, but it isn't about Rashford. It goes for everyone in the squad. If you are not doing the right things, I'd rather put my goalkeeping coach on the bench than put you into the team. So I understand how people have said it's about Rashford, but he is simply making a point to the journalists. He hasn't done enough in training. I don't want to keep talking about it, but it isn't specific about Rashford. If anybody doesn't do the right things, they're gone out this team. I'm annoyed at Man United fans being frustrated by it in the sense of that's exactly what we've needed for 11 years. Someone that will do that, and a board and an ownership that allow a manager to do it, because in the past we have backed the players over the manager, and it's created a power divide that could never be resolved. This is where United fans, what I mean by throwing petrol on the fire, understand that this is the manager getting frustrated at the media asking the same question, so we should put pressure on them to stop asking it. Because I don't think it's about I don't think their relationship has got any better or any worse in recent weeks. It's just the only thing I would advise Amorim to do now is stop answering it. When they ask the question, I'd almost go, next question, please. But even when he does that, you'll then get the headlines, oh, maybe the relationship's got frostier because he now doesn't want to talk about him. And this is where United fans have got to help the club and the manager and not sort of perpetuate those headlines, if that makes sense. And I just think we've got to be sensible here as a club, because it's not going to help us get rid of Rashford, and it isn't going to help him get back into the team. And I sometimes think that we're terrible at seeing the wood for the trees as United fans. We're so reactionary at times.
I think my frustration with the whole situation comes from the fact Amorim's done the right thing, because as soon as a player says he wants a new challenge, you're out the team. I can't trust you. The club have now let Amorim and Rashford down because they've not done enough to find a resolution. Now, whether they think, we don't know, whether I might be wrong, whether the resolution in this is for Rashford to stay and then for them to make up and he gets back in the team, who's to say? But if one of my highest earners says he wants to leave, he's looking for a new challenge, it's on me now to get him out of the club, because clearly that's a toxic environment for the football club, and that's why he's not played for 11 games. So Manchester United need to do everything, and it should have been done at the start of the month. To come into the last week and there'd been nothing.
Totally agree.
Is massively negligent on the club.
Totally agree. Players like Rashford, whose attitude changed with some success and limelight, make me admire Cristiano more to keeping working hard. Listen, but this is where I'll give Rashford support. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't grow up as a teenager into a man in an environment like Man United. So it is absolutely plausible that some of those United legends, and we'll use United as the case in point, the Scholeses, the Gary Nevilles, the Ronaldos, if they hadn't have had the club run as well as it was under Fergie, they could have gone down that road. And that's why sometimes you have to look at the scenario that people find themselves in, as opposed to just the individual. Terry and Double A, thoughts on us taking another United youngster?
Arsenal youngster.
Arsenal youngster, sorry. Yeah, Arsenal youngster, sorry.
The sweetest bit was Igal's tears, to be honest with you today. That's the best bit for me.
You know what I love about it, right? I don't know much about him. I hate you slow down the pecking order. You had no chance at our club. Why did they offer him a professional contract then?
Yeah.
It's like yesterday I was having a thing with Hugh Izzy, and he was saying to me, "Oh, you only got Obi Martin because you pay him 30 grand a week." And that's just a lie. He's not on. Yeah. He's not documented anywhere credible that he's on 30 grand a week. It really isn't.
It's just all because someone mentioned it to me, and I was looking. It's all the Arsenal aggregators that say it's it's double the price that they want. And a guy was saying the same thing. Well, we can only get them because we're offering them money. I was like, but we are recruiting great young talent from around the world, and quite a few from the Premier League. There's clearly a movement and a project that these young players are excited by, and that's why we've managed to get 2 from Arsenal, 1 from Palace. A young kid, obviously, from South America. There's clearly something there. Whether or not they'll be a success, I don't know. But to go and get 2 very good young players out of Arsenal in the same sort of season or within a year tells me something is either fundamentally wrong with the pathway to Arsenal's first team, or there's something a lot better at Manchester United. And as a United fan, I'm going to go with the latter, I think.
Well, I think there is something good at United right now. Part of and we started it a couple of years ago, and I think thankfully Ineos are keeping it going. We're trying to go out and grab some of the best youngsters from around the country. No different, by the way, is what we were doing in the late 80s and early 90s. You know, a lot of United's academy Beckham was from London as an example, but there were other Southerners that were in that academy. We've been doing it for a long time, and it's the right thing to do. But I look at it 2 ways. If they become good enough players, brilliant. If they don't, and they're just it's a good Championship player or a Premier League player or a League R player, great. You might be able to sell them and make some money. Picking them up at 16, 17 means you're spending a lot less money on developing them. And if they work out for you, great. If they don't, you'll be the one selling them for actual profit. So I think it's like a double-edged sword, really. This here says, to answer Henry, your question is from fan perspective. From the Kroenke's perspective, Arsenal are in a perfect place, 2nd in the league and 3rd in the Champions League. Money is incoming. They don't care about trophies. It's a fair point.
This is what I meant. Go on, Henry, you go first. Sorry.
No, go on. I was only going to say that about Matthias Tell, because apparently there's a clause in his contract with the Harry Kane deal that Tottenham have first dibs on Matthias Tell.
It's not what you need.
Precisely.
Another kid.
Can he play center back?
I can already see it. Due to
what's
the
his
healthy relationship with Kane and Dyer.
Yeah, hang on. What are his hamstrings like?
Good at the moment, not for long.
You got to check his hamstrings out. United taking another Arsenal youngster is fine as long as Matt keeps his cool. Yeah, Matt, when we signed Obi Martins, went mental. I think every time Fabrizio tweeted about it, he was calling Fabrizio a nonce and stuff. It was like Matt lost his head, but he's lost his head on this one as well. You can just tell by how angry he was messaging. Before the end of the show, I wonder how do we see City getting on tomorrow? Do you think City stay in the Champions League, or do we think Manchester City drop out?
Nah. I was looking at the table. Obviously, there's 4 teams ahead of them. Is it on 10 points? They've got 8, but 2 of them are playing each other. Is it Stuttgart and PSG? So all 4 can't win and make them avoid it, which is a shame. And Bruges at home, you'd expect them to slap them up. Sadly, massively sad on that. It would be fun. Yeah, it would be fun to see him go out.
I think
they have to win. They draw or defeat, they're out. So they must win. Literally a must-win game.
Yeah, because City are they in? Yeah, they're in the last spot. Actually,
just outside. Yeah, the first place outside. Yeah.
They simply have to win. There's no draw. If they draw or lose, they're out.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I think that they'll batter Club Brugge. I'm not gonna lie. I can see City winning like 5-6-0 or like 5-6-1, like something crazy like that. I think that they'll absolutely cook them tomorrow.
Yeah, I think if they score early, score a few goals in the first half through. If it gets to like the 60th minute and it's a draw, then I think City go out, because I think they're still. I know Chelsea annoyed me at the weekend. They let them off the hook. They should have gone 2-0 up. Palmer's pass was crazy, and I think they don't recover from 2-0 down. We saw what PSG did to them. Intensity is going to be key. It really, really is. Looking at Club Brugge, someone said they're unbeaten, haven't they? They've had 2 defeats, 2 draws, 3 wins in this tournament. Listen, there's half a chance. I mean, they've only conceded 8 goals, though, Club Brugge. I would say they've only conceded 8 goals in the 7 games. For a club their size, that's pretty good going, but they've only scored 6, right? So it's going to be a hard one, but no, I think City will go through. But if it gets late in the game and it's a draw and they're drawing, I think the pressure will get to this City team because they're not very good. But it would be great for one of the giant clubs, one of the big ones, to go out. And I know as United fans, it'd be even funny if it was City, but it would just be for this new format. Again, City going out, I think, opens the tournament up. as an example. Can Paris Saint-Germain go out? Is that doable, or probably not now after they won the other day?
I think they can, can't they? Because they
Yeah.
play
So
Stuttgart. I think they can still go out.
So they're sitting 22nd. So they would
Yeah.
need to lose, and then they would need. So then Sporting and Stuttgart would have to win.
So Stuttgart are playing PSG, you see, so they play each other.
Okay, so
Oh.
Stuttgart, yeah, so if Stuttgart won, they'd drop down. If Sporting
And
was to
then City
win, and City win, then yeah. So
Yeah,
if Stuttgart,
yeah.
Sporting, and City win, then Paris Saint-Germain will go out. So it'd be nice to see one of the big boys drop out. It really, really would, especially if they can't come down to the Europa League anymore. So yeah, it'd be great. Look, I want to thank everyone who was tuned into the show today. It always means a great deal to us here at the Terrace. My panel, you've been amazing. So all my super chatters, so generous, so brilliant as always. Remember, you can join the notification group chat by scanning the QR code on the screen. I just want to check one thing real quick. I don't know if we're redirecting here. Nothing on the redirect. So there we go. I just want to check because I don't ever know. KJ takes care of all of that. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again tomorrow. Peace.